Well, it's time to talk about life. No, I'm just kidding.
Welcome to the PI Planning Cooking Show with Shane Harrison.
So you're an RTE, you're coming up to halfway through your PI. It's time for you to have a holiday. Seriously, show your boss this video, he'll give you a holiday. The reason it's time for you to have a holiday is because the second half of the PI, for you especially, and the teams, is hard work. And you as the RTE, it becomes critical for you to be the person who is carrying the out. And I don't mean you have to do all the work and you have to be the shoulder that everybody cries on. But as you head into the second half of the PI, the pressure goes up. The pressure goes up especially on your teams. Teams tend to allow a few things to drag, things to roll into the second half of the PI, and you've got to help them stop pushing those little boulders forward and deal with them. And so you have to encourage them to pay more attention to detail. Yes, that means you have to be a little bit more pushy than you were before. Yes, you have to be more pushy with your Scrum Masters and making sure they're checking definition of done of the stories. Yes, you have to push your PMs to make sure they're checking the feature definition of done, and if you have an iteration definition of done, those too. You do have to be, unfortunately, and I don't like using this word, a little bit more of a policeman. And a policeman in a good terms, in terms of verifying that we are doing what we're doing in the way that we intended. And that puts a lot of pressure on you, especially you've just done the mid-PI review, or you're just coming up to it. That's a lot of work. And you've got 6 or 7 teams, and you've got to really start going around and spending more time with them and keeping a closer eye on. That's more pressure on you. And you have to be Mr. or Mrs. Happy. You have to be Mr. or Mrs. Enthusiastic. You have to be Mr. or Mrs. Detail. Because those are the things that will get you through to the end of the PI in a strong way. And unfortunately, to do all of those things, along with the utmost important of Mr. or Mrs. Realistic, you have to be Mr. or Mrs. Police Person. Because we can't finish the PI with a whole pile of half-done features. Teams will never finish a good PI with a whole bunch of half-done stories. Nobody wants to find out at the end of the PI that only half the stories are ready or half the features are ready. They want to know as soon as they can. So you have to be pushing for those forecasts. You have to be looking at those metrics. And to go along with that, your PMs and POs are under a lot of pressure because they've got to get those features ready. No one wants to go into PI planning knowing half the features or having half the questions unanswered. So again, this is going to be a lot of work for you, and if you're going to have a break, this is the time to do it, and make sure you do that, because it's game on for you now, because this is where you are carrying them forward for that last part of the PI to make sure the PI is successful. It's very easy for people to 5-6 weeks in, 3-4 iterations in, to start to be worn down and to lose their energy, and you've got to help them lift that energy, whether you feel it or not. You are, in the circuses, sort of the master of ceremonies at the center of the ring. You've got to be full of smiles, you've got to be full of happiness. So this is just a warning for you about those things that you have to do, and also make sure you have a break and you have the energy to do that. This is the time where the heavy lifting for you as an RT really starts. Because from now until that PI planning is done, it's 120% game on. So that was your warning. I hope you're ready. It's going to be fun, because the joy at the end is delightful as much as the pressure is challenging as you go through. So think of those things that I talked about, the things you have to do for those teams. You have to do those things every day, every week, every iteration, that last half of the PI. It makes a world of difference. So that's this episode of the PI Planning Cooking Show. Click to subscribe if you found this useful. Click on the button if you want to be notified. And please give us your comments below, or even better, tell me, or tell us more precisely, the things that you're interested in hearing about and your experiences with that last half of the PI. What is the real challenges you have faced with that heavy lifting to get from the midway through the darkness to the end where there's fireworks? Okay, so for this week, that's it. Have a great time. Bye.
That's the PI Planning Cooking Show with Shane Harrison.